one day when I had went out, I came back a little bit late, and I used to always be able to get through that window. I came home and it was locked, so I ended up sleeping in the alley, and one of the neighbors came out into the fire exit, and she was having a cigarette, and she saw me out there. And then it was at that point in time, she kind of called CAS, and then I got put into CAS at that point. I have to take the onus on myself to provide for my child. I don't want to put my child in a position that I was in when I was a kid. Yeah, he is your dad, but he shot an old lady in the face and killed her, and that's why he's in jail. So not only did she keep him away from me, she lied to him and told him that I had killed somebody and I killed an old lady, which was like not the truth. I never talked to him, hardly ever, my entire time that I was in. So for 6 years, no communication with my child in any way, shape, or form. The right person will come to you by taking the right actions in life. So just continue to make small daily changes in who you are as a person and improve yourself.
Welcome to another episode of the Punches and Prayers podcast. Today I have a very special guest here. A guest we have a bunch of mutual friends. A friend that I sold phones with. He actually does coaching for their group of real estate agents. And we linked up on Instagram. He's pretty hot right now. He's going on tour with a bunch of podcasts. And I have the privilege of having him here. Welcome, Trevor.
Thank you.
Nice to have you here.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, so Trevor, tell us about yourself. Who's Trevor Luchuk? A little bit about your background story, where you grew up, what part of Ontario or Canada did you grow up in, if Canada, and tell me a little bit about your family. Go ahead, Trevor.
Yeah, so I grew up in the Schwa, good old Oshawa.
Oshawa.
Actually, yeah. So
okay.
Back and forth between there and Montreal.
Okay.
My mom was born in Ontario. My family immigrated from the Ukraine into Quebec, so that's kind of why we went back and forth.
Je parle français? No?
Nah,
okay.
too far removed. Just because I was in foster care from a young age, right?
Got it.
I grew up in an abusive home. My father wasn't there. I had a stepfather, and my mom, we were living there full time in Oshawa.
And when you say abusive home, was that abusive from your father's side or the stepfather's side?
Stepfather.
Oh, he was abusive.
Yeah, he was pulling that whole, like the lion comes into the new pride and wants to get rid of the cubs.
Yeah,
that's exactly what happened there, right?
So he had insecurities for sure.
For sure, he also had drug issues, and he was a biker, right, like an old school biker. So
if you don't mind me asking, where's your original father?
So he was like, my mom essentially like took me and ran.
Okay.
So my dad had no idea where we were. So he lived in Quebec at that time. We're talking. In the 90s, like there's no internet. You're not going to be able to track somebody down. There's no social media, right? So.
And how's that been since now? Are you in touch with your father now?
Yeah, we're actually really good. We're really tight. Yeah.
And so you kind of regret your mom's decisions of doing that at certain points, and because there's always two sides to a story, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of times, like I back in my days, even when I was younger, and I'll just say it for the camera, when I was younger and I was dating single women or whatever, single mothers or a girl that was divorced, I rarely heard anyone talk good about the ex, and which is sad because I used to always question it. I used to tell them, hey, there's got to be some good years. You were 18 years together, 10 years together. Yeah. Was it all that bad? Oh, I just tolerated everything was bad, and that's something I never understood. And now going through becoming the man I am and seeing that being involved in men's groups and stuff, I realize that's just a thing that happens.
Yeah,
I'll just say it like that, but. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure. And that was similar lines too, right? So I was a Crown ward at the age of 7. So my social worker had only the information that my mother had given her. Mm-hmm. So the entire time I felt like from my understanding, my dad just ran away, but it was actually the complete opposite, right? And it was only years later that I had found that out. So I had built up all this resentment towards my father when actually it wasn't even true. Yeah. And, my mom had a lot of issues. She was extremely young. She was only like 17 when she had me. Mm-hmm. And she had a kid even prior to that. She had a kid when she was 14, right?
Oh, wow.
So there was a lot of trauma in her life. She was adopted.
And that was a son or that was a sister? That was a daughter?
So my sister, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
with the same father?
No, we don't know who her father is, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. My name is Trevor Luchuk, and I'm an elite mindset and business coach. I help men and women become the best versions of themselves, both professionally and personally. If you want to find me, look at me on Instagram. It's Trevor_Luchuk. Okay. Yeah, so I have an older sister, and then I have a younger sister and a younger brother, and we all have different dads.
Oh, wow. So four different dads in one house?
3 different dads.
3 different dads.
Three
okay,
different
got
dads,
it.
yeah.
So 2 from one and then...
Yeah.
Okay.
2 from one from one, and 1 from another.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's up to you to feel comfortable, but like, is there a certain resentment towards your mother or certain choices that she made? Looking back now?
No, I don't harbor. I'm not a person that holds resentment.
Okay.
I've been able to grow as a human, as a man, as a child, whatever you want to say, throughout my life, and I've kind of let that go. Like she passed away when I was 11 years old of meningitis.
I'm sorry to hear that.
It was like, I just have to take a look at my life and and look back and be like, I'm grateful for the fact that she was able to birth me and put me into this world. And, you know, all the other opportunities that come my way, God willing, are great. And I appreciate that. You know, if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be here. So I have to be thankful for that. But
Correct.
in terms of my relationship with her, there was zero relationship. There was no connection. There was no attachment style. She was not really involved in my life in any way, shape, or form. So I don't really have too much to say about her, to be honest.
So growing up, who'd you grow up with then from then onwards when she passed away?
I was in foster care.
Okay.
So from 7 years old, actually, so what ended up happening, I'll be quick with the story. I never went to school. So like I went to like grade 1, grade 2, and grade 8. So I never went to elementary school.
So from grade 2 and then grade 8, how does that work?
I was literally allowed to just go and run the city. So I could go out all day and do what I wanted and then come home when the sun came down.
That's crazy, bro.
So there was no school, there was no structure, there was no nothing, right? So yeah, like living that life, I just became independent. And I just figured out shit on my own,
Yeah.
right? I didn't have any other way to figure it out. I didn't have any guidance. I didn't have any leadership. I didn't have any of that. So one day when I had went out, I came back a little bit late, and there was like, the building is like C-shaped, so I came around the back alley, and I used to always be able to get through that window if it was late. I came home and it was locked. So that night I actually had to sleep in an alley. So I ended up sleeping in the alley, and one of the neighbors came out into the fire exit, and she was having a cigarette, and she saw me out there. And then it was at that point in time she kind of called CAS, and then I got put into CAS at that point. And then I actually asked to be a Crown Ward. I was like, listen, the home's abusive. I don't want to be there anymore. So they put me in a temporary home for 6 months. And then over that period of time, from the age of 7 till I was 18, I was in over 20 different foster homes and group homes. So I just went
That's
from
crazy,
home to
brother.
home.
That's crazy, man. You went through a lot.
Yeah.
I can only imagine what that's like.
Life experience, though.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So
I mean, we all have our own experiences. I've been on my own since I was 17, 18.
Yeah.
Different experience. My dad just wanted me to become a man, and that was the best thing he could have done. But I would have known earlier if I was out on my own what I would have done, right?
Well, you know what the good thing about it, the way I look at it is, every parent has a different style, right? Some are overbearing, and some aren't parents at all. I was given the opportunity to be able to make my choices and to figure out life through trials and tribulations. So based off of how people would make me feel would determine if I wanted to treat somebody that way.
Yeah.
So I was just able to kind of fail and figure it out, which is, I think, the best learning experience for a child.
Okay. And then so while you're going through all this, like, did you have any idea of like your heritage, like your Ukrainian heritage or anything like that? Or you were just growing in like whatever comes, like you're like, okay, you're Canadian pretty much now, or was there any Ukrainian side given to you, or like?
Yeah, like my family, I like when I was hanging out with like my uncles and my grandfather, like it's all literally like borscht and cabbage rolls and all that. So like I had that culture around me when I was a kid, and even still today they still practice it.
Yeah, but only beef borscht for me. You know, no pork.
Yeah, it's
gotta keep it
wrong.
halal. Gotta keep it halal though.
Yeah, for sure. We didn't do pork anyways. There's only beef
good.
in our family, right?
Yeah, beef is good.
And rice.
Beef
that was
borscht
it.
is amazing.
Yeah. So I did have that aspect, and you know, my family still communicates with some of our family back home. So
You speak Ukrainian Russian or no?
No, I don't. It's because I was taken out of the home at such a young age, right? So I wasn't able to be around everybody's. Like my family's first language is French, and then English, and then Ukrainian. So it's like, but because I wasn't there, I didn't get exposed to any of that stuff, right?
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. So then, from then onwards, you go grade 8. Did you graduate high school or what?
Nope. Didn't
Nothing?
graduate. I got kicked out of high school in grade 10
Oh yeah, for what?
for beating up a pedophile.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Like he was trying to. It was towards you or towards somebody
No,
else?
not towards me. So actually, what had happened was I was in court with a friend of mine, and he was getting sentenced on some bullshit assault charge as a youth.
Yeah.
And so I was in the courthouse with him, and this kid, his name was Jeff. He was 18, so he was an adult at that time. He was getting sentenced, and they read out his crimes in front of the entire court. And he had babysat a 9-year-old and 11-year-old, and he molested them when he was babysitting them.
Yeah.
Next day, after I just heard his court order was not to be around children under the age of 16, he's at the back of my high school.
That's crazy, bro.
So I saw him, and I was like, hey, man, like, I saw you in court yesterday. You know that you're not supposed to be here. You need to remove yourself from the property before you get in trouble, right? So sure enough, he ends up relocating kind of like, we'll say 100 feet towards like where the plaza where all the kids go to school, and I ended up seeing him again. So we had another conversation, and it didn't go too well. We got into an altercation, and then, you know, I got charged with assault for that one.
Speaking on pedos, you know, soon these people are going to have their rights too.
Yeah,
You
they
know,
have
it's-
rights now.
Correct. I don't want to say it like that.
Yeah.
I've been saying this even when I was like, you know, I've been always selling stuff to people in homes. So I was a window salesperson. I sold HVAC. I own a basement company now. And I used to go into homes and I met these people, bro.
Yeah.
Like, people don't understand. As an in-home salesperson, we deal with society. 1 in 5 homes today has a pedo, right? And you could tell, you could talk to these people, and they're like, yeah, we have our own parades too. We're actually fighting the government to say that we are attracted to minor attracted individuals. That's how they word them, and they want to create safe zones for them to be able to do what they're supposed to do. A lot of it's through the foster system. A lot of it's through the disengagement of family and home, and that's the agenda of like the Matrix or what you want to call it. But a lot of people don't know this. Like I talk to the average person. I've been saying this since 2014, I would say. And I would come home. I would even tell people like that I was with my ex, this, that, and they're like, "What are you talking about? Like that can't be. We can't live in a society like this. There's no way." I'm like, "I'm telling you, like they're gonna have rights."
Yeah.
And like not too long ago, like what's going on even right now with, the plus community, let's say. If this community was to say the things that they're saying today, even like let's say 6 years ago, 2018, you'd consider them like mentally ill. Mm-hmm. But it's become normal even that. Like you can't even say anything. Right? Yeah, same thing with them. People don't realize this. The way society is going, these people are going to have rights. Mm-hmm. And not a lot of people are speaking about this. And last thing you want is somebody close to you is the victim. It's not even called a victim anymore because they're going to get the rights to do what they have to do. And we're living in a time or society where it's just, degeneracy, like Tate says, it's at its peak. Yep. And it's going to become normal. It's like, oh, so what? They feel this way too. Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah, I ain't standing for that shit, bro.
Hell no. And I'll give you a story from when I was incarcerated. There was priests in there that were in there for molesting kids. And if you're a pedophile or you have a sexual assault charge, your like limitations and whatever restrictions you have in the community they do not come into effect until you actually get released. Mm-hmm. So you could be a pedophile and you could go into the visiting room in an institution where there are other inmates visiting their children, and you could be around children, and you can literally go to the vending machine and buy somebody else's kid candy. So for that specific reason, I never allowed my son to be able to come and visit me because there was pedophiles that were actively walking around.
That's crazy.
It is crazy. Yeah.
But you're aware of this, right?
Yeah, I'm aware of it.
I'm aware of it on a very deep level. I personally know people that are part of these agencies, and they're following the playbook of the Pride Parade. Mm-hmm. They're saying, they saw their agenda, how they came in the 80s and 90s and did their parades. They actually have parades right now in Toronto that do it on a smaller scale. It's not publicized, but they have it.
Yeah, I'm not too privy on the information, but I've seen like a lot of reports of like there being like drag readings in schools and shit like that. And I'm a person that I believe that people can make their own choices, but that's a personal choice and it should not be projected onto children.
But why does a 2-year-old need to know this?
100%.
Right?
Like
that's
if
my
you
thing.
Start teaching my kid that shit, we're gonna have a fucking problem.
100%,
I
bro.
don't care. Like,
Same. And even today, as a concerned father, you could get in trouble just by being concerned about this. Where it was just normal to be concerned about something like this.
Yeah, 100%.
But this is society we live in. It's a pandered society.
Yep.
And that's one of the things we talk about here. Anyway, so what happened after? So you basically, get kicked out of high school. Where do you go from there to become the next set of events that happen in your life?
I got kicked out of high school, and within like 2 months, I would say, I ended up finding out that I was going to be having a child.
Okay.
So I was like, oh shit. So I guess it's time to get to work. Mm-hmm. So I literally just started working full time.
Yeah. And what kind of work?
I was doing roofing actually.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, so I was doing roofing.
Hard work,
yeah.
Nailing them down, eh?
Actually, I was doing labor at first because it was like at the time I had only
people
had
don't know how fast you have to.
Holy fuck, man!
Stuff.
And just sitting on a hot roof all day at 17 years old, right?
Yeah.
Like, but it was what it was. Like, I had always said to myself, like,
you got to really nail those shingles fast.
100%.
Like I've seen them nail them, like it's fast, and you could fuck up your fingers.
Oh, you could for sure. But
a lot of people do.
Right. I have to take the onus on myself to provide for my child, and I'm not going to be in a position where, like, I don't want to put my child in a position that I was in when I was a kid, so I just went to work, man.
What year was this?
This would have been in 2005.
Oh, the good old days.
The good old days, yeah. And then...
And you did roofing for a company or like your own thing? Or what
I did roofing for a company. They were called Heisler Roofing. They went bankrupt and then reopened again. So,
oh, really? And what city was this in, Oshawa?
Cambridge, actually.
Cambridge,
I was in Cambridge at this time. Because that's where, the last foster home that I ended up being at before I had my child was in Cambridge. So that's how I ended up there.
By the way, I did 6 years in Kitchener-Waterloo too, so I know the area.
Oh, yeah.
I was there from 2007 onwards to 13.
Okay. Yeah,
I know the whole area.
It's a shithole.
Yeah, I mean,
it's gotten worse.
It's made me tough. I grew up with some very interesting people, believe it or not, like very interesting people of all walks.
Yeah.
of all walks, very super successful, and the lowest of lows. And I think like that Kitchener is that dynamic,
100%.
right?
Yeah.
People don't realize what Kitchener is a tough city, and like the history behind it. You know, you got one of my favorite boxers, Lennox Lewis, from there.
Yep.
You got a lot of boxing history from Kitchener,
For sure. Yeah.
right?
There's a couple of big boxing clubs. There's a couple of the good big like Muay Thai kickboxing clubs
Correct.
too. As
Yeah,
well,
yeah,
right? So
yeah.
yeah.
But Kitchener is Kitchener still. You
It
still
is
deal
what
with
it is, man.
it's Kitchener. It is what it is. You still like even when I pull. I mean, even when I used to go there and visit it, and when I see the people there now, I'm like, nothing's really changing about the people here.
No, it just there becomes more of
Correct.
doing the same shit, right?
Correct.
So it's I'll be out of there sooner.
And
than
they
later.
expect you to be doing the same shit.
Yeah.
That's the craziest part. Like whenever I used to go there, so my first business I was involved in was in a security business, right?
Okay.
And I ran all the nightclub security in my education days in
Yeah.
my teen and then up till when I was like 23. So Revolution, Beetle, that was my first
Yeah.
business, right? And me and this guy called Osama, we used to be the first brown guys that did it, and it was an interesting time. I don't want to get too detailed into that, but we ran that. And when I go there now, let's say, or like if I was to go like the last time I was there, I haven't been there in maybe I don't know over 2 years now. And I'm not even allowed there right now. That's another conversation for another day. I'm not even allowed in the Tri-City area, and that's okay. It's funny, like I get Tri-City leads right now. I'm selling them off Zoom. I've sold a bunch of basements off Zoom.
You gotta do what you gotta do,
You
bro.
gotta do what you got. Still, they can try to put this, but I'm still selling basements through Zoom.
Yeah, they can't stop you from.
Like I'm not
digitally
going there.
reaching
Yeah,
there,
digitally,
right?
yeah. But it's not. It's customers, right? Like within that area. And the crazy thing is, going back was when let's say if I go there. When I was going there, like let's say I bumped into a homie from like 10 years ago. Yo, bro, where you been, man? Like, are you still doing security?
Yeah.
Their expectation is you're doing the same shit you were doing.
Yeah.
When you ask them,
No
they're
growth.
most likely doing the same shit.
100%.
Like the guy that's doing pizza is still doing pizza.
Hundo. Yeah.
Nothing changes, bro. Nothing moves in that city, right? Just maybe in a different capacity, but he's still doing that. You never see too much change in that city, which is one thing I don't understand.
I think that's people in general. I think the average person doesn't.
But
grow.
Kitchener specifically, bro. You know what I'm talking about. The Kitchener,
Yeah.
because I have enough homies there, and when I pull up, like the same shit, bro. Like even if you look at the Kitchener factories that exist and stuff, it's the same people working in those factories running them. They die there.
There's nothing to inspire anybody.
There's nothing
There's
inspirational.
no
there, bro.
development. There's no it's just.
That's one thing I never understood.
Yeah.
And if you get institutionalized, like the right way to do Kitchener is you do your time there, you take it for what it is, and then you move to something else.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
But the homies mostly, like we have very successful friends. Ibrahim, for example, is a friend of mine that me and you both know. Right? He's doing his thing. And it was all me and him used to work together at Wireless Wave in Conestoga Mall together. And we were selling cell phones through that mall. And he went into real estate, I went to construction. But most of the people around us, bro, they're doing the same shit. The bartender is the same bartender at the same bar that he was, that his father was there. It's like it's a generational curse almost. And I wanted to get out of Kitchener, bro, so badly. I used to pray to God every night. I'm like, I need to get out of here. And then when I got my chance in the opportunity, I actually left even Ontario. I was in Alberta and Quebec, and I was in the HVAC business, but for a while. And I left in 2013. I was so happy, bro. It just felt like I left all the baggage behind.
Oh yeah, yeah. I could relate with that for sure.
You know what I'm saying? Like it's like, and they don't want you to leave. It's like the crowd. Like they
it's
want
a
you
cesspool,
back,
man. Yeah, they want. It's like toxic, like this toxic love. They just want you to stay around forever.
And it's got worse. Like I remember the last time I was at Charles Street Terminal. It was bad back then in 07.
It's so bad.
Now, bro, there's like camps outside of homeless. Like
it's the same as downtown Cambridge. So I live right downtown Cambridge, and the condo's on the water.
I know exactly where that is.
Right, so like across the street is Bridges. It's the only homeless shelter between downtown Cambridge and Waterloo. And I can pull out of there any morning, going to the gym, and there's 50, 60 people, tents, like zombies. It's crazy, man.
Randy's from Cambridge too, by the way.
Yeah, there's nothing that can be done about it, bro. It's insane.
It's insane, bro.
And you know what? This is the understanding that I have about Cambridge. It's sad, but I was going through and I was cleansing my Facebook, and I ended up having 21 accounts that were on there with no profile pictures. And when I was going through the names, I realized that those 21 people were all dead.
Bro, I can't. Bro, I just had goosebumps. You wouldn't be surprised how many guys I know just like that from Kitchener, Cambridge.
Yeah, bro.
Even successful ones, bro. Some good homies, bro. Just dead.
There was a guy.
Drug overdose.
He was the valedictorian of my high school.
Yeah.
He was like the height. Everybody loved him. He was like poured into everybody.
It's sad,
I
bro.
see him downtown every day. One of my friends that was a movie actor, like a pretty famous movie actor. I won't say his name, but like I seen him down there not too long ago, like rough, and everybody knows who he is.
Yeah.
And that's how bad it is.
Yeah,
There's movie stars on fentanyl running around the city. It's insane.
It's
bro.
crazy, brother. It's like a fiend town.
Literally.
And especially downtown, man. I was like, this is sad, man. Like it's just, and it's like when I was younger, I used to always think like, why doesn't the government or anybody do anything about this?
It's
like
mental health.
Yeah.
It's all mental health. It's all.
But I almost think the system enables them though. Don't you think? To a certain extent.
enables them in a sense, for sure, after they've already made the choices, and then they start depending on the government for like food and resources and all that. But at the end of the day, like that's what the government's supposed to be there for.
Correct.
Right. So it's like the catch-22. At the end of the day, I can understand, like, a lot of people went through a similar pattern in life that I went through, but they chose drugs as a form of escapism to deal with the pain.
Yeah, I agree. I think this conversation, to me, like the way I look at it, and I'll be fully transparent. Things that I went through in my life, like crazy stuff that barely people even know about. Like even my exes don't know about some of the stuff I did to even put food on the table or provide or did all this or vacations. Like, had I not have the faith of being a Muslim and being a devout Muslim, I would have turned to something.
Yeah.
Right. I don't drink. But I realized that as a Muslim, I could just say this, as like our faith plays a major role in grounding us.
100%.
And I never take that for granted. And going even through what I went through recently, I now realize why some guy could be on the street because of an ex going crazy on him or driving him nuts to see his kids or playing with his art. I understand that fully, brother. And I used to, sometimes when I was younger at some point, very young, maybe I was when I was 18, 19, I used to look at homeless people and be like, yo, why is this guy like, he's walking fine, why is he begging for money? I used to have this, I don't want to say pride.
It was a mentality.
It was a mentality that I was told that, oh, they're just drug addicts or this or that. But if you go into that drug addict story, could be very deep, bro. Could be a woman.
100%.
A lot of times it is a woman that put him in that situation.
100%.
Right? And the way we're raised is like, I'm sure you're around Ibrahim and all these guys. You know, it's alhamdulillah for everything. It doesn't matter. Like,
well, my son's actually Muslim.
Your son converted?
My son converted, yeah.
Well, congratulations to you, bro.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So,
and how did you take that? Just like
I'm fine.
You're fine with
Listen,
it?
I have a lot of Muslim brothers. I grew up around a lot of Muslims.
And I'm sure they're probably always inviting you to Islam too.
100%.
Gotcha. That's unique, brother.
Yeah, for sure. But I studied Buddhism, so I found Buddhism when I was in solitary confinement, and that's kind of what I
good for you
to saving my life.
Yeah, as long as you have faith, and right, like it's like I swear to God, like I say this to every time I meet with somebody right now, and I'll give whatever I have to like somebody pandering for money, and I never judge. And somebody like, oh, boy, he's gonna buy drugs with it, or why'd you do that? I'm like, listen, we don't know the story, man. You don't know the story, right? And it took years of experience and going through shit in life to finally get here to like accept it. And faith is a big thing that I think like it's diminishing from society today. They want faithlessness for a reason. They want you to accept everything, and hedonism and whatever it is everything's okay. And so anyways, we went off track. We're going to talk forever, but so go ahead. So you started working roofing. I know that was your story. You went into roofing. What happened next? Because I know it gets more interesting.
Yeah, for sure. So I went into roofing. So my son, he was supposed to be born in January of 2007. We ended up going for an ultrasound in October of 2006.
Okay.
So we're talking like the end of the second trimester.
By the way, how old are you?
I'm 36.
Okay, so you're 2 years older than me.
I just turned 36.
I'm 34. It's not that off. Because I'm like, what you're talking about 06, 07, that's when I was like 17, 18, right? So
yeah, so we go in for the ultrasound, and they find out that the baby's breech. And then at the same time, they're like, he's way too small. So they were like, we actually, like, if we don't get this baby out, either the mother or the baby or both are going to die. So they ended up, like, airlifting her to Mount Sinai Hospital in Toronto.
Okay.
So the next day at like 1 o'clock, we ended up having my son, who was only 2 pounds and 13 ounces when he was born.
Oh, wow.
So for that entire year, I ended up living either in the Ronald McDonald Homes or Sick Kids Hospital, sleeping on the floor for like 9 months, just
crazy,
making sure
bro.
that he was like going to live and he was going to survive and shit. So that was an interesting time. But it was in that experience, we had a semi-private room. And there was a father and a mother next door who had just had their child, and their daughter ended up having her intestines she was born with them outside of her body, so it was like pretty rough experience for them. And I just remember the dad, I don't remember his name, but he offered me a beer, and he's like, hey man, let's go outside, I want to go have a cigarette, whatever, right? So we go outside, we start having a conversation. He's like, hey, can you by chance, and he's like, this is going to sound like a weird question, but like I don't have anybody else to ask, and this is a situation that I'm in. He's like, can you by chance get ecstasy? And I'm like, that's an odd question, bro. I don't even really know you. I was like, well, what's in it for me? So I didn't really know too much about like the drug game at that point in time or anything about it. But I was like, there's an opportunity here. Like, for real, I couldn't even work at the time because I was in the hospital with my son. So I couldn't even afford the $14 a night at the Ronald McDonald House. Like, like I'm 17 years old.
Yeah.
I just turned 18. Like, I'm broke as fuck, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was like, well, I might know one person. I was like, what price you want them for? And I can like talk to the person, right? So I ended up taking a train, going back to Cambridge, and had a conversation.
All
with
that
this
struggle.
person. All that struggle.
All
bro.
that struggle. You took the GO train?
Yeah, I took the GO train back,
it
bro.
Was, it was around back then?
Yeah,
I just started.
Yeah, it was. I
started.
took Union Station to and then I took all the way to Aldershot, and then from Aldershot I took a bus to Cambridge.
You're crazy.
But that's what I had to do at the time, and so I go back. I talked to the guy in town, and he's like, "Yeah, I can get them to you for this price." So ultimately, I was going to make $1,000 on this deal. So to $1,000 to a kid who can't afford $14, I don't give a fuck what anybody says. If you're starving and you're sleeping on the street, you're going to do that shit.
Yeah,
right?
100%.
So I ended up doing the deal, and then turns out like it's a bi-weekly thing. It's a consistent thing, and before you know it, some of the guys that I was grabbing the dope from were like, "Listen, you're actually like you're picking things up. You're getting good at this," and then
You're coming up in the ranks.
and that before it was all said
You're about to be a patched member.
Yeah, it was just that just escalated, and I started selling more drugs, and I got really deep into the game at that point in time. But it was ultimately because I had to. I didn't feel like I had another choice. I was trying to find jobs. I was trying to work. I didn't have experience, but I also was torn because I wanted to spend time with my son. So I said, "Fuck it," and I just dived head first into the game.
And how was your son at this point? By the time you're selling drugs, like how long was your son in there?
He was in the hospital for 9 months.
And after that, when he recovered, you were still with your ex? You guys were.
We were never really even together. We only dated for like 2 months.
And how was that dynamic of like being able to try to get visits with your son with an ex or at that time?
So when we were in the hospital, it was fine, obviously, because she couldn't deny me visits, and there was no like tension or anything between us. But it wasn't until we got home, and I remember the first night that we got home from the hospital, and she was young, no excuse, but yeah, she went out and fucking partied and was doing drugs that night, and I was literally left at home taking care of my newborn. So that was the situation. So I was actually the one taking care of my son, but also then still having to get up and go to work at the same time.
Yeah. And then where did that? How long were you still with that woman or whatever?
Like we dated, like I said, we dated for like 2 months. I ended up going back to my dad's house.
Okay.
And then all hell broke loose. Like then in terms of like getting visits was like, it was always like a manipulation. Like if you want to see your kid, I want this from you and I want this. And then she would drop off the diaper bag with nothing in it. So I would have to go buy all brand new shit all the time. And it was like, it was a horrible relationship for sure. Yeah, it was awful. It was an awful dynamic.
Why do women do these petty games? Why? What's the benefit for the kid in this? In denying the father to see being a part of the life? What's the benefit?
I think it's a control thing.
I think what's the benefit though? Is there any benefit?
There is no benefit. It's a selfish act.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, like I've been to court, so I ended up getting custody of my son in 2019.
Okay.
Right? Full custody. Like he lived with me.
Even with your criminal record and everything.
Everything. Criminal
and
record.
They still gave it to you.
Listen, for all the men out there, if you're worried about going to court to get custody of your child with a criminal record, it means absolutely fucking nothing. I led with my criminal record. I put it on my application, and I got full custody of my son. I got child support, and I got support from the government at the same time. So that's a fallacy out there if men think that they won't be able to get possession of their child.
I don't think it's from my perspective and the men that I talk to, I don't think it's a fallacy. I just think the men now they just gave up. They've just accepted defeat, and they don't want to play the long game, right? They look for the short game, and the emotions get to them, and they don't understand the long game.
That's a mindset issue.
Correct.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like again, we go back to the creator. Like the way I look is the creator has a different plan for you and your son. Like I'm just even fascinated by when you told me your son's a Muslim. Like I'm just digesting your story, and I'm just like thinking like, oh, like look at how God like finds ways to find light with some kid. He can have the most hard childhood. He didn't see his father, but he still found. Because we always say in our book that whoever God wants to guide, no one can misguide, and whoever God doesn't want to guide, no one can guide, right? So that's just in itself is a crazy story. So going back a bit is like you selling drugs. Now you're full in the game. You're a top ranking guy. You're pushing how much money a week?
I was making about $20K a week.
Wow. So what do you do with $20K a week cash? What do you do?
Reinvest it.
Where?
Into the business.
Yeah.
Buy more dope.
Yeah.
That's literally what it was.
But you didn't buy no assets or anything like that?
I had a home. I bought a house. Yeah. So nice. I had a house.
In Cambridge?
No, it was in Paris actually. So I bought a house, $269,000 at the time.
So off the grid a little bit, right?
It was off the grid. It was about 20 minutes out of town. 100%. It was smart to do so. So I was like the only kid at 18 years old that had my own home. I had a pool. I had a hot tub. Like it was a nice spot. So everybody was always hanging out with me.
And if you don't mind me answering, like was the game that you're in? Are you associated with a gang, or is it just like solo, or is it like? like an organized thing, or is it like actual gang?
No, I was charged with 55 organized crime charges, and I was said to have been associated with the Hells Angels at the time.
Okay, HAs, the Cambridge chapter,
Kitchener.
Kitchener chapter,
Yeah.
but they're off Weber.
Yeah.
Right, that one, right?
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
I always used to, when I was younger, when I used to drive on Waterloo and Weber, I was always like, what's this shack with all these cameras, right?
Oh yeah.
I know my friends own the dealership in front of it, like Extreme Motors.
Oh okay, yeah.
So he told me, he's like, oh, this is the HA's place.
Funny enough, actually, so when I got sentenced, one of the main guys that I worked with, his father-in-law was actually the president of the Kitchener chapter, and he ended up getting sentenced, and he was down there at the same time as me.
I know him.
So when he was sentenced and he was down there with me, I was his private security for the entire time that was down there. So
He's out now, though.
he's out, yeah. So like when we were there, we had our own phone. Nobody touched our phone. He would get his phone calls. He would get taken care of. Nobody went anywhere near him, and because of that, I have loyalty for life.
That whole thing's the Portuguese chapter of them, right?
Yeah.
But how are you as a Ukrainian associated with them?
One of my associates was working for one of their people at that point in time, and then because we were growing so fast, they just wanted to work with us.
In like 2010, 11, 12, when we used to run security in all the clubs in Waterloo, like Beta, whatever, they used to all pull up with the patches on, with the necklaces on,
Oh yeah.
openly.
Yep. No,
I don't think they do that no more.
No, because
Because that's the time where they were raiding them like crazy. Like that.
yeah, well, they were technically.
They were like
if I'm
police
not
had
mistaken,
WRPS had a hard on for them.
if
right?
if you have a patch on now, it's considered automatically you're part of a criminal organization.
Yeah.
So it's illegal for you to wear a vest. So if you wear,
I still see them here and there, very here and there.
Yeah,
I saw some guys here.
There's some guys that just don't give a fuck, right?
Yeah,
but
yeah.
so put it this way, if you were with two other guys and you have a vest on of any chapter of any club and you commit a crime, it's now organized crime because there's two or more people.
Yeah.
So you're fucked. So
Yeah.
you're gonna get.
But you were not
you
you were not a patch number or anything like that.
No.
Okay, so you were just a guy.
It was not something that honestly appealed to me. I was approached multiple occasions, even like obviously when I was incarcerated when I got out.
Yeah.
I was not interested in any way, shape, or form. Just like no disrespect to anybody,
Yeah.
but I'm bigger than that. I have bigger things in life. I have a bigger purpose.
Yeah.
I have more opportunity and more potential. I just saw a different path for myself.
So you start doing that at 18, 19, making 20K a week. It's
Yeah.
like almost 100 grand a month.
Yeah.
Right? How long does that go on for? That ride?
About 8 months.
That's it.
8 months. Yeah.
8 months.
8 months. Hard.
So you made a mill, let's say, give or take.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what's funny? We had a pot that we used to cook crack in.
Oh, yeah.
And we were like, this pot we want to make $1 million in.
But $1 million is way more than that.
But I mean, we put $1 million worth of crack through
Got it. Yeah, got it.
And then they actually used it against us in our case, and they had it like in a plastic bag, and they were trying to use it like, this is the pot that they were gonna make $1 million. It was fucked.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were just kids.
So this was what year? 2000 what?
That would have been 2008.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you get charged after?
So pretty much what ended up happening was we were in Cambridge. That was our territory. There was another clique, you could say, in like the Kitchener area, and we all work with the same people, right? So everybody had their boundaries, their territory. They were minding their own business. A guy named Mike Rogers, who's really well known in the area, he's actually like still walking the streets today, but he's a drug addict and he's fucking lost his mind. He was selling drugs to underage women, and he was having sex with them, unprotected sex, and he had HIV.
Oh my God.
Real piece of shit. Real killer. Real piece of shit. So one of the women that he was selling crack to and he was sleeping with was one of my friend's little sisters. So touchy subject, right? So we reached out to his crew and we're like, listen, man, like this shit has to end. And they're like, well, we aren't condoning this. We're not involved in any way, shape, or form. He actually owed them like $270,000 at the point in time. So for all they could care, he could just disappear. They didn't give a
100%.
fuck, right?
Yeah.
So we ended up arranging a sit down in his apartment. I ended up going over to his apartment by myself, and we sit down at a table, kind of like this. There's a little coffee table in between us, and now we're having a conversation, and I'm addressing the things and the concerns that we have with what he's doing. And I could tell he was high. Like I've been around enough people, sold enough drugs,
100%,
I can tell he's high.
Yeah.
And when people are on meth, they're super erratic. And like if you ever tried to like fight somebody on meth, they're like fucking insanely strong, right? And they don't feel any pain. So
I'm telling you guys that, just to cut you off for a sec, a couple of people from like Serbian communities in Kitchener used to come out high on that stuff and on coke. But yeah, I remember like fights where we used to kick them out and literally bouncers were like throwing the raft, like the lineup thing, the metal stuff,
Yeah.
like the barricades, we would throw them straight on the guy's face. It would break everything, you'd still come back like Terminator.
Yeah, man.
Bro, they're coming. I'm
They're
like,
zombies.
he's not dying.
Yeah.
Like, bro, literally, it's like there was close calls of killing people in
Yeah.
the security thing, and then cops had to come. But by the time cops come, they've already wrecked so much shit.
Yeah.
Like, I remember those days. I'm like, these Serbians were crazy.
Yep.
Like
The
in
Ser-
Kitchener
I know
back-
the Serbs back
Those
then.
Serbs
yeah.
back then,
Yeah.
Kitchener were crazy. If you're in Kitchener from that time, man, I don't know how much pain I've had from them. Just going into clubs high and messed up and then causing fights, like insane fights.
Yeah, I know the whole clique of guys.
I'm talking with like 20 cruisers would have to show up
Yeah.
with like extra police officers to
Oh
put
yeah.
them down.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like they're tasing them, they're still coming back. Bro, it's like literal zombies. Anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, so we were both sitting down. We were I can't really remember. Like it was so long ago. But after a while, he kind of got up and he started pacing. And when he got up, the way that his shirt collapsed, he had a gun on his waist, so his shirt was kind of like tucked in behind the gun. So I don't think he meant for me to see that, but he was so out of it that he couldn't really like understand what was going on. So he started pacing back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and I seen him like doing this weird, like he was twitching, like he wanted to go for his gun, and I'm like, man, this fucking guy's really tripping me out. And then sure enough, I don't know what I said, but it triggered him, and he just turned around and he went right for his gun. So like as he was reaching, I just fucking jumped on him. I just jumped across the table, and we started wrestling for the gun. And during that altercation, the firearm went off 3 times, and he was hit 3 times, and I wasn't hit any of the times. So I ended up taking the gun from him, and I ran, and I left. And 3 or 4 days later, I was taken down in a high-risk takedown on the Gardner Expressway by like almost 80 police.
80.
Yeah, bro.
That's how
it
many
was
cops
pretty
came.
crazy, man. Yeah, so they
And
like
from which agencies?
it was Port Credit, OPP, RCMP, Waterloo Region. Yep. So it was 3 different jurisdictions that took me down. So I was like going down the highway, and I see like a roadblock like way ahead of me. So I see all these brake lights, and I'm like, the fuck
Based
is
on what
going on?
grounds did they have the warrant off for you?
I'll get to that.
Yeah.
So I'm driving, and I'm like, I was actually smoking a joint at the time, and I look in my blind spot, and I see an OPP cruiser there, and I'm like, why the fuck is this guy like shadowing me like that? So-
Undercover or like?
no, it was an OPP,
no.
but like a normal marked car. So I passed the guy in front of me, and then I could come back into like the second lane, not the fast lane, and he follows me. And I'm like, and I have a girl with me at the time. She's my surety because I'm on bail for another set of charges. And she's like, oh my God, like, why is this guy following us? I was like, nah, he's not, don't worry, he's not for us, right? And then I look in my rear view, and I couldn't tell you how many cherries I saw. So I was like, what the fuck? Like, it looked like an unlimited amount of cars. And these cars were all blacked out cars, so you couldn't even see, like, they had holograms on the side.
No, I know
so
how those guys
they
roll up.
ride dark, right?
I have
So-
stories about how these guys roll up.
Yeah, so...
They come in regular unmarked cars, like Audis
Yeah.
and stuff too. I've even seen Audis.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, what the fuck? So she's starting to freak out, and I'm like, yeah, don't worry. Like, they're not for us. There's no way they're for us, right? So I put the signal on, and I start signaling over to the shoulder, and the whole fucking task force follows me, and I'm like, fuck. So I know something's gonna happen, right? So as soon as I get over to the side of the road, man, sure enough, on the other side of the barrier, they had SWAT following me, shadowing me. So it was a van. Fucking 4 or 5 SWAT guys jumped over the barrier with guns and
Big
held
guys,
me right
big,
there.
big guys.
fuckers,
Yeah, those
right?
are big guys.
And I remember I had a big diamond chain on at the time, and I had a sweater on with like a tank top underneath. So
If you've been enjoying this episode so far, I would highly recommend to like, comment, and press subscribe on the subscribe button. It will make us to produce more content in the future. Now let's get back in the video.
now you got to imagine this, okay? I have 5 guys surrounding my car with fully automatics pointed at my face.
Yeah.
I have like 50 fucking cop cars behind me, and these guys at the time think that I have an assault rifle in my car, and I had allegedly shot somebody.
Yeah.
So they want to hurt me. They want to make sure that also that they're safe, right?
Yeah.
So they ripped me out of the car, and I swore I was.
Oh, they dragged you.
They dragged me out of the car. I thought I was gonna get shot. I was
Yeah.
like, they're gonna fucking kill me.
Yeah, 100%.
So they put me over the back of the car, but now I remember I got my chain. So
Yeah,
my
and they want to
chain
damage your
hits
car
the
too. They
fucking-
probably hit your head hard
It hits
on-
the
on
trunk,
purpose, yeah.
and they think it's a gun because when they put me up,
The
it
metal.
makes the sound. So
Yeah.
they throw me on the ground and they put the gun to the back of my head, and they start screaming, "Where's the fucking gun?" And they start searching me and shit. There's nothing there.
Yeah.
They tear apart my entire car on
Yeah,
the
yeah.
side of the highway. They find nothing.
Yeah.
Zero. Nothing. No
Yeah.
gun. No nothing.
Yeah.
I remember hearing the captain being like, fuck, we didn't find anything, man. We're gonna have to let this guy go. And I'm like, oh fuck, thank God. They're like, well, all we can do is take him to the station and search the car a little bit more.
Yeah.
2 minutes later, a whole row of cop cars, unmarked cars, comes up the center of the road. It's Waterloo Region. They called in a fake tip to get me pulled over so they could come and arrest me because they thought I was fleeing, which I wasn't. I was actually I was leaving the province for 3 days with my surety, and I was coming back for court the next week. So it was the homicide detective.
Yeah.
And I'm like, fuck, did he die? Like, I had no idea at this point in time. I wasn't listening to the streets. I had no idea
What do you mean, who
going on.
died?
The guy that I had shot.
Okay.
Right? The altercation I got into was 4 days before. So
Yeah.
I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, homicide is pulling me over on the 401 right now. This guy must have died.
Yeah.
Well, he was on life support.
Okay.
So he could have died. So they had homicide involved because it could have ended up being a murder case, right?
Yeah.
So they ended up arresting me right there on the spot for attempted murder.
Yeah. And you went in which station after that?
They took me all the way back to Waterloo region, and they interrogated me
Waterloo
for
warrant?
23 hours. They interrogated me at Cherry Blossom Road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one, the
New one.
The new one you
The
were.
new one. Yeah, the
The
new
new one
big
wasn't built then.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, it was.
Yeah.
On Frederick.
By the highway, right? I think it's
Well, that's
Frederick.
Cambridge.
No, not that one. That's on Hesper Road. I'm thinking about the one that's...
Well, the holding cells
no,
are
it's
in Frederick.
Cherry Blossom Road. That's what it is.
Okay.
Yeah, it's Cherry Blossom. Like where the Loblaws factories and shit are.
Okay.
It's out there. That's
So
where...
they took you in a holding cell.
Yeah, they put me in a holding cell for like 23 hours and interrogated me. And I just obviously...
And what happened after? Released?
No, fuck no. No,
Yeah.
I was already charged. So
Yeah.
I just lawyered up. And what was crazy was that they actually...
But they got to hold you for one day only there, right? So
They they only had me there one day, and then they sent me to
Hippler's?
they sent me to court so that I could see a judge first, and then they remanded me, and then they didn't have any evidence for my case for 9 months because they were doing a criminal investigation, and then they arrested 21 other of my co-accused.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that guy called the cops on you?
No, so he didn't call the cops on me. The cops were called. So what ended up happening was this. So he's supposed to be a gangster, right? He's not supposed to,
Snitch.
he's not supposed to say names, none of that shit. He, at first, when he woke up, had said that it was like a black guy. He's like, oh yeah, it was a black guy. I have no idea who it was, right? Okay. Then, I guess when they were doing surgery on him, when he first came in, the nurse ended up, and this is the thing, it'll sound a little bit gross, guys, but ex-cons, guys who are in the penitentiary, if they are drug users or drug dealers and they think they're going to go back, they'll put packages up their ass. So like this guy literally had like a couple grams of heroin in his ass just in case he would go back to jail. And he had a string on it. So the nurse ended up seeing it and was like, what the fuck is this? Pulled it out and they ended up finding dope. So now the cops come to question him. Well, the guy has already done like 10 years in federal system.
Oh, he was.
So
he's
they're
a
like,
10
hey,
years
you
old.
got caught with some heroin. So now he's looking at like another 10 years.
Yeah.
So at first it was like, oh yeah, it was a black guy. And then all of a sudden, no, it's a young white male, 6'3", tattoo on his fucking neck. And he gives my description.
Yeah.
Right. So obviously they have informants in the street. They
Yeah,
hear
yeah.
a little bit.
Of course,
They're trying to watch me. They have me under surveillance.
Well, if you already had a charge before, it's easy to put things together.
For sure,
Yeah.
right? And like, there's not anybody that's really like doing the level of drug dealing and violence that we were at that point in time. So it was easy for them to. Even the day that the shooting happened, I was under surveillance, and I ended up beating their surveillance.
You know what's crazy about WRPS too? One of their boys. I don't know if I should say his name. One of their officers got caught being in mix with those guys, and he's still on the streets right now. He's a firefighter. You know him, right?
Actually,
you know him, right?
One of my co-accused was two of my co-accused. Hear me out. My lawyer became one of my co-accused because they charged him for coercing a witness, and then that ended up getting thrown out, and he ended up suing the city for $6 million. Shout out to Hal Matson. And then my other co-accused was a correctional officer.
Yeah. But you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah,
There's a
I know
guy that's
exactly
out.
what you're talking about.
He's out, and he's a firefighter now.
Yeah.
And nothing. He didn't do a day in jail.
Yep.
He didn't do a day in jail. He was abetting the organization for years, bro. And you know how I got caught? He used his WRPS phone to text them one day by mistake.
Yep.
And they didn't do anything to him, bro. It's one of their own.
Well, you got to think, because the thing is like those cops that go undercover, they end up becoming, they have to live the life too. And there becomes this hard path in their brain to determine, am I still a cop or am I one of these guys? And they get confused as to what it is, right? And then they end up seeing the money and they get exposed to it.
He was a very dirty guy, bro.
If you're making 60, 70K as a cop, it's not hard for a high-level organized crime to
Some
pay
guys
you more
make
than
200, bro. Staff sergeants making 300 right now.
Yeah, not in Cambridge, though.
Not, bro. In Guelph, staff sergeants making 300K.
That's crazy.
Yeah, bro. It's public information. You can pull it
Wow.
up. I can pull up some names.
Yeah, that's insane.
It's insane. 300K staff sergeant. But anyway, so this guy, I don't want to say names, but he's a firefighter now. People know him in WRPS. This dude was I remember seeing him at I was doing a security gig at Conestoga Mall at one point, and we would arrest like people that shoplift.
Yeah.
And he pulled up, and the way he would talk to people, you could tell like he's the type of guy that when we would give girls to him, he's like literally would take them in the bag and say, I'll let you go if you like. That's the kind of energy you got from this guy before.
Yeah.
And then when I saw it, I was like a no big deal. I'm like, oh, he's the one.
Yeah.
Okay. But anyway, so you get that, and then what happens? So you go to you get remanded where?
I'm in Maplehurst.
Okay, one of the worst places.
One of the worst places.
We just had another guy on the podcast. He was talking about Maplehurst, and we talked about how bad it is out there, and trying to get like in this group that I run, I do visits there to see men that go through alleged domestics and stuff, just because I want to be their positive influence and stuff. And to get a visit, bro, they're always on lockdown.
Yeah,
bro, it's like you go there at 3 p.m. Oh, people are literally waiting there to see the 7 p.m. visit, and the 7 p.m. is also locked down. Because they have like 2 visits a day.
Yep.
It's like a distressed airport, That's how it feels.
100%.
Like.
Yeah, like, bro, I was there for 2 years.
In Maplehurst.
And 2 years. So I did 22.5-hour lockdown for 2 fucking years.
That's how long it took to get your trial date?
That's how long it took me just to get to my prelim, because there was 21 of us. So it's an organized crime case. There's a lot of lawyers involved. Like,
so you won in what year? 2009?
To the beginning of 2009. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was in there for like 2 years, and it took me 22 months, I think, to get to my preliminary inquiry. But you're on a 22.5-hour lockdown. At that point in time, I'm thinking I'm going to get life. Like, I'm charged with attempted murder and fucking 50-something organized crime charges, right?
Because you're never getting out.
I didn't think I was ever going to get out. So that's how my mind started to think.
Yeah, you already preparing yourself.
I just turned into a savage. Like, it was like, I'm 20 years old. I'm full of piss and vinegar. All I did was fight. All I did was fucking, just...
You're going to come out... If you come out, you're going to be like 55 or something?
Yeah, I didn't even think I was ever going to get out. I at that point in time, my mindset had shifted to I was a lost cause, and... I was just going to, create a reputation for myself within the institution so that people wouldn't fuck with me.
And how's Maplehurst? How many fights were there?
Oh, man.
Maplehurst was crazy, eh?
I was probably in over 50 fights, 60 fights in that 2-year period.
And you got charged in the prison too while you were there?
Never
got
charged. No, because it's not like I'm attacking somebody.
Yeah, you're defending.
They're mutual, or I'm defending myself, right? Yeah. And they're all on camera, so at any point in time they can go review the camera and see what's up. But I was getting in a fight like probably every 2 weeks, and then I would probably do 7 to 10 days in the hole after that. Okay. And so I did a lot of whole time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I probably did 10 days out of every month that I was in there in SAG. That's crazy. Like 1/3 of my pretrial custody was in segregation.
That's crazy, bro.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah. Okay, so you go in Maplehurst. You went to trial? So you went to trial with this?
Didn't go to trial.
You took a plea?
So yeah, hear me out. So
you hired a lawyer, obviously.
Yeah.
How good of a lawyer was he?
We had the best lawyers in the city.
Oh,
so we're paying over 6 figures for our lawyers.
Yeah.
Right. The biggest discrepancy in the case was this: they didn't have a warrant in order to be able to get like a wiretap. They had a production order. And for anybody who knows what a production order is or doesn't, when the government or when the police get a production order warrant, they're allowed to go to your telecom provider and they can ask for timestamps on messages, on calls, and geolocation. That's it.
It's like a Feeney warrant.
Exactly.
Right?
But back then, TELUS was set up where they were storing every single one of your text message as an image on a satellite. So the person at TELUS ended up printing off every single fucking text message as a physical file for the police to see. So we were going to break down case law and show that they didn't have the right warrant for this, so they weren't going to be able to use it. So we actually ended up taking TELUS to court, and then TELUS went to the Supreme Court, and just because of this case, ended up taking the money that we would have sued and got from them to fight the government. So now, because of our case, you can look in the case law, TELUS went to the government, and they ended up winning privacy rights for Canadians, so yet your text messages can never be stored and saved, and that's because of our case. So back to the case, they're like, they had the text message, and they had one person who could identify who they believed could identify me and my 2 co-accused as the ringleaders based off of our real name and the nicknames, because they couldn't associate the two. They couldn't prove that Trevor Luchuk was Lucky Luciano. They couldn't put those two together, right? So this person could
to take Lucky Luciano,
so. That was the name that was given to me, the last name, because Lucky Luchuk, right? So what ended up happening was he came to court one day, and my lawyer at the time actually had a conversation with him.
I don't know if everybody knows who Lucky Luciano is, though.
Now that Google it. And so they had a conversation with this alleged witness briefly, like a high and by. So the Crown saw that as they thought he was coercing. The witness then went into court that day and was like, listen, I was under duress when I made this statement. I'm going to recant my statement, and because of my mental health issues, I have a letter from my doctor that says I cannot testify and I have to rescind my statement. So now they're like, oh shit. So they arrest my lawyer for coercing a witness, but then they're left in a situation where now their witness cannot actually identify who Lucky is, who Snipes is, and who Chico is. So now that whole association goes out the window. So at the time, we got 21 co-accused. they're starting to try and set trial dates. So this is 2010. Our trial date was 2014. 2014. That would have been
crazy.
6.5 years of pre-trial custody.
And
that I
trial's
would have
crazy, bro.
It's like segregation.
Yeah, you had lights on your head. And all
24
yeah,
hours,
I know.
right?
It's meant to break
you're
you.
only getting
It's meant to break you.
It's meant to break you, and you're getting 1,800 fucking calories a day. That's it.
Yeah.
Like it's fucked up, bro.
Yeah. Even holding cells, bro. They're meant to break people.
100%.
Right?
Yeah, man. So it was
Basically, for people that don't know, pre-trial is basically a holding cell for 2 years.
yeah, they're trying to break you to get you to plea because they want convictions.
Correct.
Simple
That's
as
what
that.
they want.
That's the system. That's what it's designed for.
They just want convictions, no
And
matter
if
how
it,
they get
if
them.
it wasn't designed that way, they would polar opposite. Federal would be how provincial is, and provincial
Correct.
would be how federal is.
Correct.
Plain and simple, right?
Yeah.
So
Or they could just do both the federal way and give people like access to human rights. Bro.
100%.
How can you presume any guilty or anything? Like, the sad part is it's like you're guilty until proven innocent, right?
And you could be there on a DUI, and you could be with a killer in your
Correct.
cell.
I know.
It's fucked,
pretty
right?
fucked up,
For a normal person,
It's pretty
like,
fucked
it's
up.
traumatic. For
People
sure.
don't understand that. Yeah.
Anybody who, even if you're innocent and you've been charged for your first time and you go to Maplehurst, you will not be the same human.
People don't
when you
understand.
leave,
100%.
right?
100%.
So they got in a situation now where this guy.
It depends how you take it. For the strong people, they come out better. I could say that.
100%.
Right?
Yeah, you have to create your own environment, and you have to empower yourself from within in order to be able to get through those things, right? So yes, we're back in court. Now they're like, oh shit, we don't have the text messages, we don't have the witnesses. And then they're like, okay, well, guess what? We're going to drop 54 of your charges. We're going to drop the attempted murder charge down to an aggravated assault. And mind you, there was never a time in my life during this process where I said that I never got into an altercation and this man never got shot. All I simply said was I was defending myself. But we don't have the self-defense laws in Canada.
100%.
Right? And if you're believed to be involved in criminal activity, they will not accept self-defense as a defense.
100%.
So they rule that out, right? So now
They rule it out even without criminal activity, bro.
For
A
the
guy
vast majority of the
can
time.
come in your house today
Yeah.
in Canada,
Yeah.
try to do bad things to your kids. If you end up killing him, you still have to do some jail time.
Yep. In the
You get-
States, I could have killed him and I would have been fine. I would have walked free that day. I
Yeah.
could have given him a statement. I would have walked away. I would
Yeah.
never
In
would have
Canada,
been
it's
charged.
different. Here, it's like,
100%.
what is it called? Use of force. You can only use enough force to restrain the guy. Buddy, the guy came with a gun. What do I
Yeah,
do? I
100%.
use enough force to restrain him?
Yeah.
The F do you mean by that?
Right? Yeah.
Right?
So they ended up offering me. So they dropped the attempted murder down to an aggravated assault with a firearm, and they dropped all of my other charges. And they said, listen, we're going to offer you a 5-year plea deal. So you only have to serve
2.5 years.
2/3 of that. It was
Yeah,
3 years and
3
4
years.
months.
Yeah.
So hear me out. So I'm already in for a few years. I'm looking at 4 years in trial. If I think I have a good chance to beat it. The lawyers think we have a good chance to beat it. But if I don't, I'm looking at life, or I'm out in 3 years and 4 months.
Okay.
I just wanted a date.
math, yeah.
I wanted to know when the fuck I was getting out. And I was like, I have a kid that I have to take care of. I have a life that's on standstill, and I need to make a decision here. So I just said, fuck it. I'm gonna hug it. I'm gonna take my charge, and I'm gonna do my 3 years and 4 months, and I'm gonna go rebuild my life.
So you went in what year?
2009,
And you came out when?
the end of 2024.
End of
Or sorry,
2024. Wait,
the end of 2014.
I mean, end of 2024.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the end of 2014.
Wait, what did you just say?
2024.
2014.
Just got out.
Yeah, 2014.
Yeah, so 2014 I got out.
Okay.
So this year is actually my 10-year anniversary of being
Nice.
released with no charges.
Nice.
Not
So
even a fucking speeding ticket.
Which prison did you go to?
So everybody goes to Millhaven at
Okay.
first, right?
That's a white boy jail, eh? There's a lot of white boys there, right?
Well, yeah. Well, no, there's like it's a mixture between white and black.
So I'll tell you a little bit about myself. Like, just to
Yeah.
when I was young, when I was like 20, 21, I actually wrote the corrections test. Yeah, I was just doing all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
I did the RCMP test. I went pretty far in corrections, far enough to say like I was in federal corrections to get hired.
Yeah.
And I did my testing and everything, did my training, the psych evaluation, all that, but I turned it down because my dad always told me, look at the guy that's doing the job for 30 years and see if you want that lifestyle. I was like, nah, no way.
No, they become institutionalized too.
I saw ex-correctional officers inside being inmates. I was like, yo, and the guy that did 30 years, he's a deadbeat himself. He was worse than the inmates.
Yeah.
I did my testing and everything, and I was like, nah, it's not for me. I remember driving back, but at that time it was a big deal. I'm 21 years old. I was the youngest guy to get selected in federal corrections.
Yeah.
So I did my federal testing. Then I turned that job down. I was like, screw it, I'm not doing this. But something inside me was like, I'll do it again. And then OPS was hiring onto provincial, like I went 2012. I was like 2 years after that, and I did it again. And I passed the test too. And I did one of my tests I wrote, and it was in Millhaven.
Okay.
Yeah, and even when they make us write the test there, they do it. They do it with a glass in an area room where you see the inmates.
Okay.
And most of the guys that I saw were all tatted up white boys,
Yeah.
like fully tatted up.
Yeah.
And they do it on purpose. I'm sure they did
To
that
see
to
if you're
intimidate you.
intimidated,
Yeah, 100%. So it's funny, but I never took that job either. Some of my friends did, and looking back now in hindsight, it was amazing that I didn't, bro.
Yeah.
Life is much better.
Mm-hmm.
My friends want to get out of it. I have a bunch of friends that are correction officers. Bunch. Police officers, corrections.
Yeah.
Correction guys want to get out. Most of them transition to police. It's better than
Yeah.
corrections. And looking back, I'm thankful I didn't make that decision. But I took one job that back when I was younger than that, when I was like 19, in Kitchener, when I was in Kitchener, at Grand Valley Institution. So I was in the female
Yeah,
prison.
the female prison.
So I was assisting correctional officers as an assistant to them. We still had uniform on, but it's kind of like an auxiliary unit, basically.
of course,
You're not a badged
Yep.
member. You're just an auxiliary. You get some kind of clearance done, and you're helping correctional officers there. So I even saw the female institution. And they live like, their institution's amazing, bro. They get steak dinner. They get, bro, they get treated like better than some people outside, most people outside.
Yep.
And it's not prisons for females. It's in federal, it's like townhouses.
Yeah.
So they build a bunch of townhouses stacked together, and like 3 of them live together in each townhouse. They get satellite TV, they get everything, PlayStation, whatever, you name it.
Yeah.
And great gym facilities, they get everything. Right?
Must
like,
be nice.
Yeah, Grand Valley, I think it's the best prison in all of North America, I think, for women. Like in terms of quality of standard or whatever. Back then it was. I don't know if it is still. But that's what they used to tell us.
Yeah.
Anyways, I worked 9 months there, bro. Just working there. Even in the break, we used to get like 2 breaks. I used to rush to the parking lot to my car. It felt like I need to get out. Like, it was like, yo, prison is prison, bro. People don't realize this. Prison is prison, bro.
It's a weird.
No matter how good it is,
energy, man.
it's prison is prison, bro.
Yeah.
Prison is prison. When you know that you're confined to this, especially if you're doing like a year, 2 years.
Yeah.
Bro, I'd rather be dead than go to prison sometimes. Sometimes I think about that. I'd rather not do a life sentence. I'd rather die. Give me the freaking needle and that's it.
Yeah.
Like, what kind of torture is this, bro? Right? Just
100%.
know it. Right? Like, I know people are going to say, like, oh, what are you talking about? I'm like, bro, I don't know. I just think sometimes if you were to get a life sentence, like, if you did 5 years, you know, you have something to come to, that's one thing. But if you're getting a life sentence, bro, I'd rather be like, yo, finish me here now. Like, what's the point of living?
Well, the average person can't even deal with stress and fucking turmoil in their life. Like,
Yeah.
how are they going to deal with that? They're, you know what I mean? That's why the suicide rates are so high.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm just saying that. But give me the life. I would never commit suicide because it's haram. But that's another conversation.
Yeah.
But yeah, I worked there and you know, I saw how prisons are. Even though it was a luxury prison, Grand Valley. And then I was like, I just turned my chapter on that and never got into corrections, whatnot. And anyways, that was the thing. So anyways, going back to your story. So you take your plea deal, right? From Kitchener, from Kitchener Courthouse, you get a plea deal. They're a pretty strict office, no? Their prosecution? What would you say?
Yeah, so originally it was Andre Rajna was his name, but he got kicked off the case. And then they brought in a guy from Winnipeg. So they brought like a Hamilton organized crime judge that had experience. Okay. And then they brought in a federal crown attorney from Winnipeg who was used to dealing with organized crime cases as well.
How do you think judges are? What's your perception of judges versus prosecutors? If I had to ask you a comparison of like prosecutors versus judges, the level of professionalism, the level of knowledge, the level of leniency towards an inmate, or is it better from a judge or a prosecution, or you've seen all sorts? Because some of these prosecutors, the way I see them is they're just out there for their numbers to put a tally that they got a case.
That's all they're out there for.
Yeah.
They're just out there to actually get a conviction. They don't, even if they know that their case is weak, they're still going to try and get a conviction. They don't give a fuck what the prosecutors do not care. Yeah. They have only one job, and that's to convict you and to prove their case.
That's how they get promoted.
For sure.
That's how their salary goes up, right?
And then the judges, honestly, here's the thing about the system. There has never been a time where a judge has been on a docket for my case and my lawyer hasn't told me some information about them. Like, we should remand it because this isn't the right judge. Well, we want to remand it because we want this judge. So it tells you, like, how these judges operate. They don't give up. They just rule one way, right? And they're very stuck in their ways. I never had an issue, or I never had a judge that specifically had like picked on me in any way, shape, or form. But the crown attorneys were literally trying.
Prosecution.
Yeah, they were doing everything in their power to try and fuck me over, man. They wanted me bad. Yeah. And it was like, the guy that's in question here was raping women and giving them HIV. Yeah. And you're trying to throw me away for life and throw away the key with it. Yeah. What does that tell you about the system? What does that tell you about society?
Yeah. No comment, brother. You know.
Right. So that's how I feel about it.
Okay.
Is like, you guys allowed, and he's still fucking out there and was still finding victims and still doing that shit.
That's crazy, bro.
So it's like, okay, so the guy who you put away for having an altercation with this person, he's gone now, but you're still letting that person go.
And he didn't do any time after?
Nothing.
Nothing?
Nothing.
Oh, he was
Zero.
always out.
He was always out, man.
Okay.
They patched him up and they put him back out on the street and he was back doing what he was doing.
That's insane, bro. That's insane.
Well, I'm in jail rotting.
Yeah. So you went to Millhaven and you did most of your time there?
So I did. So Millhaven was. So how it works is you have to get classified.
Yeah, yeah.
So I went to Millhaven. I was there for 6 months. I was supposed to be maximum security, but they didn't have any bed space.
Yeah.
So what they do is they do an override. So the high medium institutions are considered to be Collins Bay and Joyceville.
Yeah.
So they ended up putting me in Joyceville. That was my mother institution.
Okay.
So I did a couple years there, and then I was the range representative at the time, and the guards were kind of fucking with us and doing some grimy shit. And we tried to have a conversation with them. They ended up pepper spraying us, and before you knew it, we ended up barricading the entire range and rioting for about 14 hours.
That's crazy, bro.
It was pretty fucking crazy. So me and 3 guys, we almost died during that riot. They tried to kill us. They were shooting live ammunition at us. It was they were shooting shotguns at us. Fucking.
Why?
Because we had barricaded both ends of the range and we were fighting back. Yeah. We weren't letting them on the range. So, and this is all Freedom of Information Act, so anybody can go search this shit.
How did they classify where to put you? Like, so let's say a guy like you, your name's Ukrainian, but you're pretty much like a white boy or whatever, and you had these crimes with organized crime. When they're assigning you to like which range you're going to in federal system,
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. You get your own place in federal, right?
They put you wherever. No, well, it depends. Like
you
some
weren't with
places,
the celly in federal. Though.
Not in mine. No, some places do double bunk though.
Yeah.
Most violent inmates don't get cellies.
Yeah.
For obviously like pretty apparent reasons. But no, they don't segregate you based off like there's
holding
other
cells
provinces.
Always cellies. In holding cells.
In holding cells, yeah, for sure.
But that's so stupid. Like in a holding cell, a guy that went in for some kind of like alleged crime that wasn't even there is next to a murderer and he can kill him.
Yep.
How does that work?
It doesn't make sense to me, right? But that's the way that the system is, I guess.
Insane, brother.
Right now. So I was in Joyceville when that riot happened. That's actually when they put me in segregation, and they wouldn't let me out of seg. So I ended up doing 6 months in seg.
Oh, you're like completely isolated.
Completely isolated in segregation. Like can't see, no grass. There's lights, but it's very few and far between.
You don't come out. You don't get any yard time.
You get 20-minute yard.
That's it.
They put you out into a bullpen.
Where do you shower?
Concrete. You get a shower, 10-minute shower every day.
Okay.
Or no, so a 10-minute shower every other day, a phone every other day, and a 20-minute yard daily.
That's crazy.
And you get library books. That's it.
That's it.
Nothing else.
But food, you get the same food, or is it
you
different?
Get the same food, but we're talking like you get 1,800 calories of slop.
That's crazy, bro.
Right? So you're not getting anything good. You can buy like canteen, so you can get like canned tuna and like canned salmon and shit like that. But
I had a question to ask you. I've heard this from inmates that did federal time. I don't know what's the truth to it, but a lot of guys told me, men, that went inside that they put stuff in your food to lower your testosterone, lower your energy levels in a certain way because they don't want you all horny in there. They don't want you all. Is that true?
I would say it's not true because they would probably be considered inhumane.
Yeah.
But I would say that
I heard this from a lot of people, by the way, not just one guy.
Yeah, but they're like I think it's a conspiracy theory. I would say that if you look at the construct of the institution and you look at the lack of nutrition, micronutrients, the lack of vitamin D, and all of those things, you need healthy food and the proper nutrients to be able to support hormones. Yeah. So if you're not getting vitamin D and you're not seeing the sun and you're stressed out all the time and you're not eating properly, it will impact your testosterone levels. So I would say that drastically being in an institution is going to significantly lower your testosterone levels because of the amount of stress and the lack of food. So I would say that is a problem for sure. Do I think they're fucking poisoning inmates? I don't think so.
Okay.
But I think that
that's a conspiracy theory.
Yeah, the institution itself, it will actually a byproduct of it would be that.
Okay. Yeah. So you go in jail, you come out jacked or what? You come out
how? So no, man, because
you come out, you got tats in jail.
I got this whole sleeve done, my whole left arm done.
Is it illegal to get tats in jail?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
But how does that happen? Like how does that go?
We make them.
So a guy I interviewed on the last podcast with a guy who learned. His name's Adam. He learned tattooing in jail, and I went to a tattoo parlor.
Like, so my guy, he was in, like, the guy who did this arm was in, he was in for murder. He was in for life. Yeah. He figured out how, he was in for 10 years at the time. He figured out how to tattoo, right? So, like, I made all of my own equipment, and he did my sleeve. I got, like, 30 hours of single needle tattooing on this arm.
That's crazy. That must hurt a lot, though,
no, it did. It actually didn't hurt that bad. Like, because I've had stick and poke done. So stick and poke is fucking way worse. Like, that's Japanese traditional style.
Okay.
But yeah, so I had he ended up doing fuck, we tattooed during riots and shit, man. Like,
And, what's kind of like the protocol of tattoos? A guard notices a tattoo on you, doesn't ask you like, hey, how'd you get that? They don't care about that.
No, they don't care.
Yeah,
Like,
they don't care about that.
no, there might be the
There's
odd
no charge.
one.
There's no charge for that, is it?
You can't get charged for getting a new tattoo, but they'll just like they'll end up like coming on your range more often to try and figure. But we have a guy at the front and the back of the range that keeps 6.
Yeah.
So keeping 6 is looking for a guard, right?
Yeah.
So if a guard starts coming, they'll just say 6 up, and then you know that the guard's coming. You stop tattooing, you put the shit away. They do their walk.
And is there any prison like the prison like that stuff? Is
Yeah,
that still exist or no?
No, that's never in Ontario. We
No.
just send kites.
Yeah.
So kites. So we'll send a kite, like a written note in our specific language, to somebody else, and we'll pass information through the institution that way.
Okay.
But we can also talk on the phone too, because we conference call with other ranges and stuff, right?
Okay.
So
So you come out, and you're like, okay, how do you get your custody? How do you come back to your child? What happens with your family dynamics? Because I know on the phone you told me a couple interesting things about how your ex tried to tell. I don't know if you're okay with me
yeah,
to
of
share
course,
this.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
basically, your ex tried to tell your son that you're not the father, and it's somebody else that's the father.
Yeah,
So tell me
so-
like the more about that. Then I mean, you come out, you're like, hey man, I'm trying to change my life around. You go into prison, you read books, you come out, and you want to change your life around. I don't know if you probably had a threat of you getting whacked when you come out.
Well, I was greenlit for a while, so I
Yeah.
had money on my head for quite some time. Obviously,
Yeah, you had
because
what?
I had money on my head for quite some
Oh,
time.
yeah?
Well, because the guy that I got into an altercation with, Mike Rogers, is a very serious Native dude.
Yeah.
And like he's killed a few people. Like
Yeah.
you know what I mean. So, and those guys, they roll deep. Like
Yeah.
I mean, like they sell a lot of drugs.
But in prison, there was attempts on your life too.
Yeah, I got stabbed in the shower. So
Oh, really?
yeah, I got stabbed in the shower. I got into an altercation in Joyceville. So the guy tried to kill me when I was in the shower.
That's crazy.
I'll talk about the girl first, and then we can get to that.
Yeah.
But so when I went in, so I'll give you the context. So she was dating a guy. We never really dated. She was dating a guy for about a year when I went in.
Yeah.
So that guy doesn't need to be involved in my son's life after they break up.
Yeah.
He's not. My son's not even old enough to even fathom who this person is. Right.
Yeah.
She keeps him in my son's life because she's using this man to be able to start paying for this kid, and she's essentially he's a simp at this point, right?
Yeah.
But he can't have kids, so he's looking at his kid or my kid like his kid.
Yeah.
So as he gets older, he's spending time at my dad's house.
Yeah.
Not my biological father, my foster father.
Yeah.
And he starts seeing pictures of me in the home. And they're like, oh yeah, that's your dad. And he's like, what do you mean that's my dad? Like my mom said somebody else is my dad. And they're like, no, what do you mean? This is your fucking dad. So then he obviously starts asking questions.
Yeah.
So when he says to his mom, like, where's my dad? Like, why is he away? And she goes, oh, well, yeah, he is your dad, but he shot an old lady in the face and killed her, and that's why he's in jail. So not only did she keep him away from me, she lied to him and told him that I had killed somebody and I killed an old lady, which was like not the truth, right? So I never talked to him. I hardly ever my entire time that I was in. So for 6 years, no communication with my child in any way, shape, or form. So I get out, and he's scared of me, obviously, right? So it takes a little bit of time to.
Well, obviously, you don't know what brainwashing was done. Also telling you like, oh, your
100%.
dad's this, your dad's that, your dad's gonna.
Yeah.
You know what I mean.
But see, me, when I look back at my childhood, and I know the things that my mother had said about my father, and then when I found out that they were a lie, I actually resented my mother, and I knew there was going to be a time where he would feel the same way because he would know the truth. So it was just a matter of time.
That's from God. Man.
100%.
You know, karma comes like.
Yeah.
You know the way it comes like. It's crazy how God's plan is always gonna win. They plan.
Yeah, bro.
And God plans.
So I just kind of let it be. I knew that in divine timing it would happen.
Yeah.
And sure enough, he started opening up to me a little bit more. And then when my parole finished in the end of 2015, I came back for the first time to Ontario because I was banned from the province because I was deemed a community safety risk. They felt if I was in the community when I was on parole.
So how does it work? Hold on for a sec. So you get released from an Ontario jail. They put you on a flight.
No. So when that riot happened,
Yeah.
they kicked me out of the province and they sent me to British Columbia. I got released in British Columbia into a halfway house where I didn't know anybody. No family support, no nothing on
Whereabouts in BC?
Vancouver Island.
Okay, and on the island.
On the island, they put me furthest away from civilization as possible
That's
with
crazy.
no support. They literally put me on the toughest restrictions, craziest curfew. They were setting me up for failure. And to this day, I still talk occasionally with that parole officer that I had, and I'm the only person that he's had in his 29 years of paroling that didn't reoffend and didn't violate their conditions. The only person. So what does that tell you about the system?
Yeah.
Right? So back to me getting out, me coming back, seeing him. So I'm at my dad's house. He was in the house. The second he saw me, bro, he fucking ran to me, jumped in my arms, and it's been fucking all she wrote since.
Yeah.
We're best friends now. So
Nice.
we rebuilt our relationship. We're super tight.
And you got full custody of him now.
Yeah, I ended up getting full custody of him in 2019. So,
So he lives with you.
he lives with me most of the time. He spends a lot of time at my dad's house too. He's 18 now, right? So
And
he's-
how's he with his mother?
they have a relationship, but she's still, she's still struggling in her life. She's got a daughter now. She's still struggling. Let's just say that.
And your son. So you said something interesting. He converted to Islam.
Yes.
How did that happen? And when did that happen?
Oh fuck! So we were.
I'm really curious about that.
So when I moved back to Ontario, I moved to Richmond Hill because the company that I was working for
So
at
you
the
live
time.
near me.
Yeah, I was helping them open a new plant. They had bought up a few factories, so we were amalgamating them into one. So being in Richmond Hill, we're in Oak Ridges, right? So there's a lot of Arabics, there's a lot of Muslims, a lot of Asian. There's not a lot of white people.
Yeah.
He was getting into a lot of trouble at that point in time, acting out obviously because I was new into his life, so discipline and structure and those things were new to him. And he was hanging around with a lot of Muslim kids, and he was just acting out, man. And he started hanging around with them more, and he started going to the mosque with them, and started seeing that they were behaving and they were structured, and just how their fathers would take care of their woman, and so on and so forth. So they were leading by example. And then he ended up converting, and he's been Muslim.
He's like
now
devout
for
Muslim. Like he's like devout. He prays
years.
5.
Yeah, man. He literally will be at the office with me. So he's in real estate. So he's doing his Humber College real estate license right now.
Yeah.
He's going to be joining the affinity team. He
Nice.
prays with Ibrahim and everybody else on the team every
Nice.
time he's at the office.
And do you know what type of Muslim is he? Like is he Sunni Muslim? Did he convert to a
No, I'm not.
You
Honestly,
know?
I haven't
That's
asked.
interesting.
No.
I'm
Yeah.
curious to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, he prays with all the brothers.
Oh, he prays them?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he prays with them every single day.
He
he's
goes
at
to
the
Friday
office.
prayers and everything.
Yeah.
Nice.
man.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's insane, man. That's a
bro.
beautiful story.
Yeah.
For me, that's a very amazing story to see. Like even the kid, like, there's hope there. But anyways, so going forward, you come out. Fast forward to today, like you're this coach and stuff. How did that all happen? So tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so
What
like
you're doing now.
before, I'd always been a personal trainer and practiced nutrition. That was something that was big in my life, and I played sports. I was always competitive, so like that, I always had like that kind of like leadership role. Or like bug in me. When I was in prison though, like I was personal training people.
Yeah.
So I was training killers. I was putting them on diets. I was teaching them mindset. Like I was the head of I guess you could say the Caucasians when I was in Joyceville. So I was the shot caller. So I had 30, 40 dudes that looked up to me, that would do anything for me. And I would just make sure we created community. So it was like, we would always exercise together. We would talk together. We would support each other. If you can help killers and you can help the worst of society, you can help anybody else. So what I did was that when I was in segregation, if I didn't design a system to keep myself sane, I probably would have committed suicide or went fucking crazy. So I developed a system of, daily reflection, meditation, reading personal development ones.
You're the Wes Watson of Canada.
100%.
There you are.
And that's before
I had
this
to say.
motherfucker
I had to say.
even came
I had
out,
to
like-
say it, bro. I had to say it. Shout out Wes Watson.
Yeah. So I was doing all of those fucking things already, and it's funny because there's probably tons of people in the world that are just like that, but they don't do anything to actually find a platform and build their life, right? Because they don't know how to execute. So that accountability system saved my life, and through that, it's helped me be able to essentially go, and I've continued applying that to my life, and I started working in real estate a few years ago. And I was working specifically with coaching companies.
Okay.
And so I was helping coach realtors. I was learning the education. I was understanding the styles and all of these things. And I started identifying areas where I felt like I could help them further.
Yeah.
And that was in mindset, because if you look in real estate, and nobody can argue with this, if you look at every single fucking team or you look at solo agents, the number one issue that they have is consistency, habits, and mindset. And that's 90% of the game. So you can teach agents.
Just pause 1 second.
Yeah.
Usman, by the way, after he says this part, that's where you put up that video of his intro of his coaching stuff. So just so you know that after this part, you put it. Go ahead.
Yeah. So
it'll be perfect.
Yeah, for sure. So, we have agents, and you can give them as many resources and tools as possible. But if they haven't developed the habit, like waking up and brushing their teeth, they're not going to execute on it.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? We really need to focus on developing the mindsets of every single business person and every single individual in life. So I took that accountability system and I started applying it to both business and to individuals, right? And I started seeing massive success. So I was like, you know what? It's time for me now to branch off on my own and launch my own products and build my own network and my own relationships.
And when was that?
That's what
When
I
was
did.
that launched?
So that was 2 years ago. So
Okay,
like
nice.
literally I was only working with coaching companies for the 6 months. I continued to work with them, but then I started finding holes and I started learning how they were building their companies. And I just took all the mistakes that they made and didn't make them and applied the growth to my business.
So anybody who's watching, a realtor, real estate person, we have a lot of followers that are involved in real estate, and some broker. What is it that makes Trevor Luchuk special about his mindset training with real estate people? Yeah, tell me
so
more about that.
I would say what makes me special is just the simple fact that I have developed a mindset that has been able to get me through the worst times of life in life. And listen, if I can go through 24-hour a day lockdown and develop a mindset that gets me through that same mindset can get you through life, and that it's only going to be able to apply to your business. So once you have the mindset, then you just have to apply the skills and then you can execute. But if you don't have the mindset, you're going to keep faltering and you're going to keep being inconsistent and you're not going to be able to grow your business. So it's just that simple, right? The mindset is one thing, but I also will help you get into the best shape and become the best version of yourself. And then once we do that, then we can start looking at how we can help you delegate, grow your business, manage your time, and actually grow your business.
Okay. And what's the name of your company?
So it's just Trevor Luchuk Coaching and Consulting.
Got it. And so to talk more about mindset and stuff, what do you think a young man that's growing in this society today, that's, the equation is against him, the matrix is against him, the more masculine he is, it's against him. He's better off calling himself something else, a he, she, or whatever, than his name. What would you say with everything out there today? Is it easier for you to stand out as a man and become the best version and attract the best things in your life, regardless of how hard it is? What would be your advice based on everything you've seen in your life now at 36 that you would give to young men, whether it's attracting the right woman, or does a woman even matter, or does it? Because at the end of the day, a woman can be good until she's not, and she gets a free pass.
Yeah.
Right? We talked about earlier. Me and you were talking about it that, I never hear anybody talk about the single father. No one says poor single father. Countless single fathers I know that it wasn't that they left their wife died in cancer or whatever, and they were left with the kids, and some of them never remarried. They loved their wives, even they were dead. They're like, I'm just gonna span it out with my kids, and they're working, providing meals, whatever, never complained. And there's some statistics even done where they showed that single father homes had better results of parenting than single mother homes. There's a statistic done in the U.S. We can put it up. What would you say, like the society we're at today, where the single father never gets the credit he deserves? No one ever says, "Oh, poor single father." Tell me once you've heard that. I don't think anybody's heard that.
No.
But sorry to say it the way. This is not a misogynistic conversation or anything, but I know that girls that had to go be dancers, and everybody says sympathize that, oh, poor dancer had to go open her legs and do what she had to do or work in a massage parlor, and she had to feed the kids. But if a man who had nothing, had everything stripped from him, ended up choosing to sell drugs or whatever, he's looked at a piece of shit. His rights are taken away. Not saying that I'm not condoning, or I'm not saying that he should do that, but I'm saying, where's the balance at? The equation's against the men. What would you advise as a man growing up and seeing this dynamic, seeing your son being raised as a Muslim and being around Muslims, being around, all these things? What would you say for a man is the best thing to do in today's society? I know it's a big, loaded question.
It is. Well, the first thing is, I'll say the number one thing that I learned when I was in segregation was that nobody's going to save you, and you have to build yourself up, and that has to come from within. So that's the same message that I would apply to young men today. Trying to chase women or chase things in life is never going to get you in the right place. I would strongly recommend against doing that. I would say that you need to pour into yourself. You need to educate yourself. You need to focus on personal and professional development and become the best version of you, and focus on your goals. And the reason why I say that is because when you're putting out in the world what you want, you will attract what's meant for you. So you don't need to go out looking for women or looking for a partner. The right person will come to you by taking the right actions in life. So just continue to make small daily changes in who you are as a person and improve yourself. And those things will continue to compound. So every day that you look in the mirror and you make a promise to yourself and you keep that, you're going to improve that confidence, and you're going to become a greater human, a greater man, and you're going to empower yourself further to keep pushing through life. So I would just say that. I would say just keep focusing on you, keep setting your goals, keep smashing those, and create the best version of yourself, and you will attract the right partner.
Okay.
Just that simple.
And where do you see yourself going with this coaching program now? Where do you see your avenues open up? Are you looking to stick with just real estate, or are you looking to open, you're consulting to other industries as well? Where are you looking to go with this?
So I'm actually not confined to just real estate. Actually, most of my clients, my one-on-one clients, are actually outside of real estate.
Okay.
I just happen to build a lot of very strong relationships and a very, very large network in the real estate space. And because of my energy and the work that I've done, people gravitate towards me because of that. So I have a few key like real estate one-on-one and teams that I work with, but I mainly work with everybody outside of that. So my mindset, my elite mindset program is really for anybody who wants to become the best version of themselves and, overcome the limiting beliefs and any of the struggles and the stress and the anxiety of life, and also becoming, the best version of yourself in terms of what you look like and what you feel like. From a business perspective, I will continue to do that. So I will always apply my skill sets to helping entrepreneurs and CEOs actually live the life that they were trying to envision when they started out to do these things. But a lot of what I'm going to be focusing on, so I'm actually working with PLCAS right now with the Youth Trailblazers program. So I'm an at-risk youth mentor, and I'm actually going to be opening up a camp in the United States for at-risk youth men specifically. So that's going to be my passion moving
And you
forward.
got your pardon already?
I'm working on it right now. So
Okay,
I'm supposed to have my U.S. entry waiver back by the end of December.
Okay.
Then I have to do that for 12 months,
Yeah.
and then after 12 months of no issues, then I will have my full pardon.
Well, you got my support, Trevor. I wish you nothing but the best in all of this. So I'm going to put your description in the description. I'm going to put your handle in the description below and your links. Is there anything you would want to tell the audience of like where to find you if they want to find more about you, Trevor Luchuk? Where would that be? So you can let the audience know.
Yeah, so for sure. You can find me on Instagram. It's Trevor_Luchuk. And if you go into my bio, I have a beacon link in there. It has all of my previous podcast episodes, and you can look a little bit further into my past. And if you have any questions, you can DM me and reach out to me at any time for support.
Trevor, thank you very much, man.
Appreciate it, brother.
I appreciate you coming out here.
Thank you, man.
I think we have a lot to work together and make men better.
For sure. I agree.